Audio 7.4 Personal and environmental factors affecting learning. Situation 38 Using data for student support. As the head of the school's academic committee, you have implemented a simple data tracking system that flags any student who meets two or more of the following criteria in a month: more than 5 days of absence, chronic absenteeism, a drop in grades in more than one subject, or a formal disciplinary complaint. The system flags a class 9 student, Samir, who was previously a good student. Explain how you would use this initial data as a starting point for an individualized tracking. Plan to support Samir. What are the crucial next steps to move from data identification to meaningful intervention? The initial data from the early warning system is a critical flag, but it is not a diagnosis. It tells us that Samir is struggling, but not why. My first step in creating an individualized tracking plan would be to move from this quantitative data to qualitative understanding. This involves scheduling a private, non confrontational meeting with Samir to understand his perspective. Is he facing academic difficulties, peer issues, problems at home, or health challenges? This conversation is crucial for identifying the root cause of the flag behaviors. The next step is to gather more context by speaking with his class teacher, subject teachers, and the school counselor to get a 360-degree view. Based on this holistic information, a collaborative support plan would be developed. If the issue is academic, it might involve extra tutoring. If it's social emotional, it might involve counseling sessions. If it is related to trauma or a home situation, it would require a more delicate and supportive approach. The key is to use the data not to label Samir but to initiate a supportive inquiry that leads to a targeted, compassionate, and effective intervention plan. Situation 39 School culture plays a significant role in shaping student motivation and behavior. Number A. What is meant by the ethos of a school like KVS or NVS, and how does it affect student motivation? Number B. Explain the impact of a well implemented house system on peer socialization and healthy competition. The culture of a school, its traditions, and its organizational structures create a unique environment that can profoundly influence student attitudes and engagement. Number A. The ethos of a school refers to its characteristic spirit, guiding beliefs, and shared values. For organizations like KBS and NVS, the ethos often includes a sense of national pride, a commitment to excellence, and a spirit of community. Mini India. When this ethos is strong and positive, it can significantly boost student motivation. Students feel a sense of belonging to something larger than themselves, and this institutional pride can translate into higher personal aspirations and a greater willingness to uphold the school's academic and behavioral standards. It becomes a source of intrinsic motivation to excel. Number B, a well implemented house system is a powerful tool for positive peer socialization. By dividing students vertically across different age groups into houses, it breaks down cliquey peer group based social structures. It fosters a sense of camaraderie, 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 sense of camaraderie, and provides opportunities for older students to mentor younger ones. Inter-house competitions in sports, academics, and cultural activities can channel competitive instincts in a healthy, constructive way. This builds team spirit, a sense of collective responsibility, and allows a wider range of students to take on leadership roles, contributing positively to the school's overall social fabric. Situation 14, leveraging school pride. Anodaya Vidyalaya has a long and proud history of academic excellence and strong alumni achievements. However, over the past few years, a sense of complacency had set in among the current students. There is a noticeable decline in participation in co-curricular activities and a general lack of ambition. The school's rich tradition and culture seem to be having little impact on the motivation of the present batch. As the principal, how would you strategically leverage the school's ethos and tradition to reinvigorate student motivation and institutional pride? Propose two concrete initiatives. To combat complacency, I must actively and strategically reconnect the current students with the school's living legacy, transforming its history from a passive narrative into an active source of inspiration. My approach would be to make the school's ethos tangible and relatable. One concrete initiative would be to launch an alumni mentorship program. I would invite successful and diverse alumni to engage with students through regular online or in person talks, workshops, and one on one mentoring sessions. Hearing personal stories of struggle and success from people who sat in the same classrooms can make achievement feel more attainable and rekindle ambition. A second initiative would be to create legacy projects linked to the house system. Each house would be tasked with researching a specific aspect of the school's history or a notable alumnus from their house and creating a presentation, a documentary, or a permanent exhibit. This not only educates students about their heritage but also fosters a sense of ownership and healthy competition. By making students active curators of their school's tradition, it transforms institutional pride from an abstract concept into a personal and motivational force. Situation 41. For many first generation learners in KBS and NBS, the school's medium of instruction can be a significant barrier. Analyze this challenge and its impact on a student's cognitive and emotional state. The medium of instruction MOI can present a formidable barrier for first generation learners whose home language differs from the school's language. Cognitively, this creates a dual challenge. The student must simultaneously learn the new language and learn the academic content through that new language. This significantly increases cognitive load as mental resources are diverted from understanding complex concepts like a scientific principle to simplify deciphering the words used to explain it. This can lead to slower processing, frequent misunderstanding, and a gap between the student's actual intellectual capability and their demonstrated academic performance. Emotionally, the impact can be equally severe. Students may feel anxious about speaking in class for fear of making grammatical errors and being ridiculed. This can lead to classroom withdrawal, low self confidence, and a feeling of being an outsider. This affective filter arises, creating an emotional block that further impedes language acquisition and academic participation. The student might internalize their struggle as a personal failure or lack of intelligence rather than recognizing it as a linguistic challenge, which can have long lasting negative effects on their self esteem and attitude towards education. Situation 42. Language support in the classroom. A teacher in your school is teaching science to a class 6 with several students who are first generation learners and not fluent in English, the medium of instruction. The teacher notices these students are often silent and struggle to understand the textbook. To help them, the teacher often code switches, briefly explaining complex terms in the student's home language before switching back to English. Some colleagues have criticized this as lowering standards. As the principal, you need to address this situation. Number A. Defend the teacher use of code switching as a valid pedagogical aid from a cognitive science perspective. Number B. What guidance would you provide to the teacher to ensure their use of code switching is a scaffold and not a crutch? This situation requires a nuanced response that supports the teacher's effective practice while addressing the concerns of colleagues with a clear pedagogical rationale. Number A. From a cognitive science perspective, the teacher's use of code switching is a highly effective scaffolding technique. For these students, the primary barrier is linguistic, not conceptual. By briefly explaining a complex term like photosynthesis in their home language, the teacher links the new unfamiliar English term to a known concept. This reduces cognitive load, allowing the student to focus on understanding the scientific process rather than struggling with vocabulary. It acts as a bridge, making the English medium content accessible and facilitating comprehension and a smoother transition to academic English. Number B. I would praise the teacher's initiative and then guide them to use code switching strategically. I would advise them to make it an explicit bridging strategy. First, introduce the concept in the home language. Second, immediately provide the English equivalent. And third, consistently use the English term thereafter in the lesson. The goal is to use the home language as a temporary support to build understanding, not as a parallel medium of instruction. This ensures it functions as a scaffold that is gradually removed as students' English proficiency grows rather than becoming a permanent crutch. Situation 43. Explain the principle of neuroplasticity and its core implication for a teacher's belief system about student potential. Number A. What is neuroplasticity? Number B. What is the most important implication of this principle for a teacher's attitude towards a struggling student? The principles of brain-based learning provide a scientific foundation for optimistic and effective pedagogical practices, with neuroplasticity being a cornerstone concept. Number A. Neuroplasticity is the brain's remarkable ability to recognize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. It means that the brain's structure and functions are not fixed at birth but are malleable and can be changed by experience, learning, and practice. Every time we learn a new skill or piece of information, we are physically changing our brain's wiring. This principle debunks the myth that intelligence is a static predetermined entity. Number B. The most important implication of neuroplasticity for a teacher is that it scientifically validates the belief that every child can learn and improve. When a teacher encounters a struggling student, this principle should foster a growth mindset instead of viewing the student's difficulty as a sign of a fixed low ability. The teacher should see it as an opportunity for brain growth. This belief encourages the teacher to be more persistent, to try different instructional strategies, and to provide targeted practice, understanding that effort and effective teaching can literally build a stronger, more capable brain in the student. Situation 44. Based on the principles of brain-based learning, explain why adequate sleep and hydration are not just wellness issues but critical factors directly impacting a student's cognitive function in the classroom. From a brain-based learning perspective, psychological needs inex- are inextricably linked to cognitive performance. Adequate sleep is not a passive state but a critical period for memory consolidation. During sleep, the brain processes and strengthens the neural connections related to information learned during the day, transferring it from short term to long term memory. A sleep deprived student comes to school with an overworked brain that has not had the chance to file away the previous day's learning, leading to poor memory recall, reduced attention span, and impaired problem solving abilities. Similarly, hydration is crucial for optimal brain function. The brain is approximately 75% water, and even mild dehydration can have a significant negative impact. It can lead to a reduction in cognitive performance, affecting concentration, short term memory, and alertness. Dehydration can cause feelings of fatigue and headaches, which are major distractions from learning. Therefore, ensuring students have access to water and are encouraged to sleep well are not just wellness initiatives but fundamental pedagogical strategies to ensure the brain is psychologically ready to learn. Situation 45. An ethical dilemma, equity versus equality. Another Vidyalaya has received a donation of 20 high-end laptops. The principal is faced with a decision on how to distribute them. One group of teachers argues for equality, placing one laptop in each of the 20 classrooms so every class gets the same resources. Another group argues for equity, allocating all 20 laptops to create a dedicated technology hub for the small group of identified students with learning disabilities and those from extremely poor backgrounds who have no digital access at home. As the principal, you must make an ethically sound decision. Number A. Define the ethical principles of equity and equality in this context. Number B. Which approach would you choose and why? Justify your decision based on the ethical responsibility of an educational leader. Number C. How would you communicate your decision to the teachers who advocated for the alternative approach? This decision requires navigating the nuanced and often conflicting principles of equality and equity, which lie at the heart of ethical educational leadership. Number A. In this context, equality means treating everyone the same by giving every classroom an identical resource, one laptop. It focuses on providing the same inputs to all. Equity, on the other hand, is about fairness and justice. It means giving more to those who have less or need more in order to create a fair starting point and provide a genuine opportunity for success. It focuses on achieving equal outcomes by providing differential inputs. Number B. I would choose the equity based approach. While the equality approach seems fair on the surface, its impact would be negligible. One laptop in a class of 40 is of little use. The ethical responsibility of a leader, particularly in the NBS system, is to actively neutralize disadvantage, allocating all 20 laptops to the most vulnerable students provides a transformative resource where it is most needed. It gives these students a fighting chance to bridge the digital divide and access the curriculum, which is a far more just and impactful outcome. Number C. I would communicate my decision by first acknowledging the fair minded intention behind the equality proposal. I would then explain the concept of equity using an analogy. Exempli gratia, giving eyeglasses only to those who need them. I would present data on the specific needs of the targeted students and demonstrate how concentrating the resources will lead to a significant measurable impact on their learning, whereas dispersing dispersing them would lead to no meaningful change for anyone. My goal would be to reframe the issue from equal things to equal opportunities. Situation 46. In the context of managing learning factors, explain the ethical importance of maintaining student dignity while addressing issues of low academic performance. Maintaining student dignity is a foundational ethical principle for educators when addressing low academic performance. It means treating every student with respect as a human being, separate from their academic output. When a student is struggling, it is easy to focus solely on the deficits, the low scores, the missed assignments, the lack of understanding. However, addressing these issues in a way that seems embarrasses or belittles the student is not only unethical but also pedagogically counterproductive. publicly displaying low scores using sarcastic remarks or comparing students negatively erodes their self-worth and trust. The ethical approach involves discussing performance issues privately with compassion and a focus on finding solutions rather than placing blame. It means framing the conversation around a shared goal of improvement, expressing belief in the student's potential for growth, a growth mindset, and separating the student's value as a person from their current level of achievement. This approach protects the student's self-esteem, keeps them engaged in the learning process, and upholds the moral duty of the school to nurture, not just to judge. Situation 47. Synthesize the concepts of learning readiness and motivation. Number A. How does a student's psychological readiness influence their intrinsic motivation? Number B. In what way can a principal focus on ensuring physiological readiness indirectly boost student motivation? Number C. Create, create a brief scenario where a lack of educational readiness leads to a decline in a student's will to learn. Learning readiness and motivation are deeply interconnected factors where a deficit in one often creates a corresponding deficit in the other, creating a cycle of disengagement. Number A. Psychological readiness, which includes interest and a positive attitude, is almost synonymous with intrinsic motivation. When a student is psychologically ready, they possess an inherent curiosity and a will to learn. This internal drive means they engage in learning for its own sake. Conversely, a lack of psychological readiness, finding a subject boring or irrelevant, is a direct indicator of low intrinsic motivation where the student sees no internal reward for engaging with the material. Number B. A principal who ensures robust health checkups and nutrition programs is addressing physiological readiness. While this seems purely physical, it indirectly boosts motivation. A student who is not hungry can see the board clearly and is not suffering from fatigue has the physical stamina to engage in learning. This state of physical well-being removes significant barriers and distractions, allowing the student's natural curiosity and motivation to surface. It is difficult to be motivated when you are physically uncomfortable. Number C. A student enters a class 9 physics class on electricity without the prerequisite knowledge. Entry behavior of basic algebra from class 8, the teacher immediately starts using formulas with variables. The student lacking the foundational mathematical skill cannot follow the lesson, becomes confused and frustrated, and quickly concludes that physics is too hard for me. This lack of educational readiness leads to repeated failure and erodes their self-confidence and will to learn the subject. Situation 48. Aptitude and learning preference. A teacher informs you that a student Priya has a very high aptitude for languages, but is struggling in her English class. The teacher, a firm believer in VAK styles, has labeled Priya a kinesthetic learner and insists the curriculum being text heavy is the problem. The teacher's solution is to give Priya only hands-on tasks like building models related to the stories while her peers do reading and writing. As the principal, you need to guide this teacher. Number A. Analyze the potential flaw in the teacher's reasoning that connects Priya's high aptitude with a single restrictive learning style. Number B. Propose a more effective multifaceted strategy that aligns classroom activities with Priya's aptitude without narrowly confining her to a kinesthetic level. The teacher's diagnosis and proposed solution, intention, while well intentioned, are based on a flawed application of learning theories that could ultimately hinder Priya's development. Number A. The flaw in the teacher's reasoning is twofold. First, high aptitude in a domain like language does not preclude a preference for any particular modality. A gifted linguist can be a voracious reader, visual, or a captivating speaker, auditory. Second, rigidly labeling Priya as kinesthetic and limiting her to only hands-on tasks is a misapplication of learning style theory. This approach denies her the opportunity to develop her skills in reading and writing, which are essential components of linguistic competence. It risks reinforcing a weakness rather than building on a strength. Number B. A more effective strategy would be to leverage Priya's high aptitude and potential kinesthetic preference in a balanced way. The teacher could use multiple intelligences as a border framework. For instance, Priya could be encouraged to turn a chapter of a novel into a short play script and perform it. Verbal, linguistic, and body kinesthetic intelligence. She could also be challenged with advanced vocabulary and complex sentence structures in her writing, providing a cognitive challenge that matches her aptitude. The goal should be to use her preferences as a hook for engagement, not a box to confine her in. Situation 49. Explore the relationship between emotional factors and socio-economic background in influencing a student's learning. Number A. How can poverty, a socio-economic factor, contribute to heightened anxiety and stress in a student? Number B. Explain how a student's cultural capital might affect their emotional comfort and confidence in the classroom. Emotional and socio-economic factors are not isolated variables, they are deeply intertwined, often creating a compounding effect that significantly impacts a student's ability to learn. Number A. Poverty can be a direct source of chronic stress and anxiety, which are potent emotional barriers to learning. A student from a low income family may worry about food insecurity, unstable housing, or family health issues. This constant state of high alert can lead to an amygdala hijack where the brain's emotional center overrides its cognitive functions. The working memory and executive functions needed for learning are depleted by the cognitive load of these real life worries, making it difficult for the student to focus, regulate emotions, and engage in complex academic tasks in the classroom. Number B. Cultural capital, which includes the language, social norms, and background knowledge a child acquires from their family, can significantly affect their emotional state in school. A student whose cultural capital aligns with that of the school exemplary criteria speaks the medium of instruction at home, is familiar with school like discourse, feels more comfortable and confident. They understand the hidden curriculum. Conversely, a student whose cultural capital differs may feel like an outsider, leading to social anxiety, a fear of participating, and a sense of inadequacy, thereby raising their affective filter and impeding their learning. Situation 15. The interplay and home and school. The interplay of home and school.